Okay? But if you went into Al's bar, where my dad sometimes went in, there was this whole thing of liquor. Well, you would have bars here in Wheeling that had the same thing. And there was another place up there, if you've ever been up through Weirton, if you've ever been to Jimmy Carey Stadium, where you turn left to go up Virginia Avenue, there used to be the Quarter Cigar. And if you ever went into the Quarter Cigar, the whole Virginia side of that was a gigantic blackboard. And in football season, you would have Steelers, Oakland, and there would be a plus or minus. You know? And all of us guys in high school, we would be able to pull out, and what do we have here? We have our parlay sheets. I still remember Crawford Cameron coming on the loudspeaker and said, "Will the boys of Weir High please be reminded that it is illegal to have," and you know, all the guys, we didn't know that was illegal. I remember the first conversation I heard my father had about gambling, and it went something like this. He was working night turn, he'd come home, and, woke up, went to the phone, picked up the phone, and said, "Jimmy, this is Matt, ready?" "I'm ready." "085, box, 50 cents, da-da-da." Got it, hang it up. And I said, what was that all about? And he looked at me like, "God, son, where have you been?" You know what he was doing? He was playing the numbers. What we would call in the 19th century policy. And if you're ever in Weirton, okay, there was a place in Weirton when I realized what life was really like was my junior year in high school. I went with some of these senior guys, and they were a little more risque than I was. And we decided to skip study hall, which was at the end of the day, and go down to the Polish Athletic Club, called the PAC. It was just called the PAC. And I said, I said, "What's a PAC?" And I said, "That's a Polish Athletic Club." And I said, "Oh, okay." So we go into it, and you walk into it, and you had to go downstairs. And that's the day that I learned what the three major Polish athletics were. Okay? Shooting pool,
careful now,
playing poker, and drinking beer. That's what was the center of the Polish Athletic Club. Okay? Well, that's this subculture. And who's in that club? They're all males, with one or two exceptions. There may be a female bartender, or there may be some other woman there who was plying her trade. And I'm not talking about, seamstressing. Although, in Wheeling, the standard occupation listed for ladies of the evening was seamstress. Okay? Now, you've all been familiar with names like Big Bill Lias. I was just asked today about Alma Henderson. Okay, now see, if you're young, you may not remember Alma. I don't remember because I didn't live in Wheeling. See, Mr. Clark's over there telling the person next to me, "She was the madam in South Wheeling." And what kind of car did she drive? White big car. Chrysler Cadillac. Okay? Everybody knew her. And everybody knew what she did.
She's from Benwood. She's from Henderson, Benwood, not Wheeling.
Oh, from Benwood. For those of you who don't know, Benwood is the suburb. Okay?
Across the street from Union High School.
Yes.
That's right. Okay, now, that's in the 20th century. But if you want to know when it got started, you've got to go back to the first decade of the 19th century. And if you want to know something about your town, one of the places you ought to look are not from the people who live in the town, but people who come in from the town and provide insights because they're given a different vision of it. In 1806, there was a traveler who came through Wheeling. His name was Thomas Ashe. And there's an article about this in the Upper Ohio Valley Historical Review probably maybe 30-some years ago. And I want to read you some of his descriptions of what he found in Wheeling in 1806. Okay? Yeah, 1806. To this part of the frontier, all persons outlawed or escaping from justice flee, and they reside here without the apprehension of punishment or the dread of contempt or reproach. Okay? He said, on the day that I was in town, two strangers were drinking at the public house, and they disagreed about the merits of their horses. And to settle it, they decided to go to the racetrack. The racetrack is south of the creek. 2/3 of the population of the town followed. The town appeared a desert. All good was done for that day, and the people remained on the ground until night, and some were there to the next day. The race was won, and a collection was taken to inspire a larger race. Wagers were made, and so on. Okay? And then the arguments began. A ring was formed, and a decision was made to fight fair. And the battle began. The contest was between power and science. And science triumphed as the Virginian knocked down his man and inserted his fingers into his opponent's eye sockets. This is 1806. This sort of thing happens 2 or 3 times a week. He said, now when you come into a town like Wheeling, he said, you want to check into a tavern, you want to know what kind of tavern you're dealing with, look at the proprietor's ears. If he's missing an ear, look for someplace else. Because they probably cut it off. Okay? And he continues. He said, the excitement of the racing carried over into the evening when the storekeepers and other citizens decided to have a ball and the supper. They invited Mr. Ash, and he said, I decided to attend. I did so because the landlord's ears were both intact. Okay? And citizens of both sexes engaged in cards, drinking, smoking, and dancing. Dancing. Where bodies of men and women are put in unusual relationships to each other. Cards and drinking. Now remember, cards is a big deal in the South. Cards are a big deal in the South. Okay? George Washington had a card player. George Washington not only played cards, but he kept a list of his wins and losses. Okay? There were some Southern societies, particularly, card playing was very popular, horse racing is very popular. This town has a Southern orientation to it, so it follows those same kinds of things. Well, let's jump up to 1832. Okay? And this is what a visitor said. The landed gentry of Ohio County indulge freely in the amusement of horse racing. There is a 4-mile course at the lower end of town. Okay? Early on the morning of the races, almost the entire population of the town might be seen scattered along from the bridge to the racetrack. Okay? What's going on in this town? Well, we like that kind of thing. Now remember what else is going on by the 1830s. The National Road has come in. The river, okay? So you're going to have a lot of people in this town who are unattached males. Okay? And we all know that an unattached single male is sometimes not a very reputable person. It's, you know, Ronald Reagan used to say, if it weren't for women, men would still be cavemen. Okay?